birthplace of a lot of historical events. Most notably, probably the assassination of the king. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Ride the Bean. Today I am in Lisbon. I've been here for a few days now. My plan when I came here was to explore Lisbon a bit more. But I haven't really been feeling too well in the last couple of days, so I just stayed in bed. As I didn't get to see Lisbon at all. And now I have to head back to Spain. So before I leave town for good, I thought I would just do a quick little tour of the city. Go there and walk around for a little bit. Look at some of the interesting places in the city before I head for the Spanish border again. So this visit to Lisbon, going back here to see more without Jonathan, didn't really go as planned. But shit happens, and let's try to make the best of today and see what happens. I'm curious. Let's go. So, it's a one-way street. Yeah, like I said, I haven't really been feeling too well in the last few days. I don't think it was anything bad. I was completely out of energy, and I've just stayed in bed, editing some videos and stuff for the past 3 days, and I still don't really feel 100%. I feel just completely drained of energy. I don't know what it is. It must be the heat. This many days in this kind of heat just killed me. In the last few days, it's been raining actually here in Lisbon. So yeah, not really a good time to explore anyway. So, but today it is a much better weather. Now we're approaching I think 30 degrees again. It's 26 now. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. So I think today is going to be another really hot day. Today is a Wednesday, so I'm hoping there's not going to be too many people downtown. But we'll see. So of course I've been staying a little bit outside of Lisbon because downtown Lisbon is just crazy expensive. Better to use the bike to get there. The only thing I don't like, especially now, it's okay like if you're staying here and you can leave your stuff, but now I don't have any anywhere to put my stuff, so I have to leave it on the bike in the city, and that's something I'm not really comfortable doing. So the plan now in the next week or so is to head towards Alicante in Spain, because my mom is coming for a holiday there. So I'm gonna spend almost 2 weeks there, just not really doing anything, just spending some time with my mom. Probably not gonna film much or anything, just relax and get some work done maybe. And then we'll see what happens after that. I'm thinking about a couple of different things. Well, here you have the big fortress again that we drove past with Pedro. Oh, cool. I wonder what kind of fortress this is. Yeah, I have 2 options that I'm thinking of, and yeah, well, I'll have to see when the time comes which one I choose. I really want to go to Morocco before I leave this area, because that's always been something I've wanted to do. But yeah, it's a little bit of a, like, there's a lot of things that need to fit in or happen before I can do that, and yeah, just thinking about it. And then the other option I'm thinking is to head north again, north and then east or west. We'll see. I really want to see Italy, but I also really want to see the UK. So I'm weighing weighing all the options, and it also depends a little bit on money, like, of course, since I don't have too much money left. Oh, this is a beautiful beach. The bridge, the 25th of April bridge in the back. This is the great thing about having a motorcycle. You can just pass traffic. Just gonna follow this dude now. Here we have the supervillain headquarters. That looks like a supervillain headquarters, doesn't it? Ah. Here we come into Lisbon city center. It's a gigantic statue. Ah, now we're downtown in traffic. I hate this. Now I just gotta find a place to park that's relatively safe. A lot of people are staring at me. Funny. I figured that since I didn't get to do what I really wanted to do here in Lisbon, I ran out of time. I would do something very, very touristic. The last time I went traveling around the world, Europe, Africa, every city I visited, I took this free walking tour. Almost every major city in the world has these free walking tours. You don't have to pay anything, but if you think the tour was good, then you can tip the guide. I like that system because that incentivizes the guides to make a really interesting tour, because if it's boring, then nobody's going to pay. And you get to learn a lot about the history and the culture and the interesting places in a city. So I think that's what I'm gonna try to do today as well. Go on a free walking tour. That's a quick way to see a lot of things in the city. Cool, Africa Twin. I think he was another traveler with proper tires and luggage racks and everything. Yeah, the cool thing also here in Lisbon, you can ride in the bus lane like in Norway, but here is actually signed. This bus and motorcycle lane. It's a beautiful boulevard. Really nice trees and another statue, World War I statue. Oh, that was a motorcycle parking. There we can park. This is a good spot. Relatively public, but also a little bit hidden. So the bike is parked and hopefully safe, and I'm approaching the meeting points for the tour. This is kind of awkward. I kind of hate these things. Like, this is as touristic as it gets, and I feel so awkward in these settings, but sometimes you just have to accept it and try to have fun. It's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna learn something. I'm supposed to look for a yellow umbrella here or something. I think we're a little bit early, so let's sit down and wait for a couple minutes, see if the yellow umbrella shows up. I feel so awkward in these places. I know I'm a tourist too, but I don't feel like a tourist. Like, when I fly to some place for 2 weeks, I feel like a tourist. But now I don't really feel that way. It has taken me 6 months to get here, so technically I am, but not really, I guess. What is a tourist? How do you define a tourist versus a traveler? It seems there's nobody here. I don't know why. It says on the website that they're supposed to meet here at this hour, but there's nobody here, no umbrella. So I don't know what to do. Let's do a Wikipedia walking tour of Lisbon. So this statue behind me is of a guy called Luis Camões, and he's apparently the Shakespeare of Portugal. And then around the base you see a whole bunch of other famous Portuguese poets. I don't really know where to begin now, but I guess you all know the history, or some of the history of Portugal. Back in the 15th, 16th century, they were a European powerhouse, and they had a bunch of colonies all around the world, especially Brazil, the biggest colony. And from that colony in Brazil, they got a lot of gold. So in this gold, there's actually the gold rush in Minas Gerais in Brazil. That was the second biggest gold rush in history, after the gold rush in California, I think. But because of this, the Portuguese amassed insane amounts of wealth, and they used that, of course, to make this city really beautiful. Lots of monuments, lots of churches, because religion was really, really important. Catholicism in particular. I don't really know the difference between the religions. Christianity is Christianity. They all believe in the same thing to me. But here we have an archaeological museum in Lisbon, which is basically housed inside of one of the ancient cathedrals. As you can see, the building is collapsed. There's just the ruins that are left, because when the earthquake that hit Portugal in, when was it? 1700s something? The roof of almost all the cathedrals in Lisbon collapsed. Lisbon at the time was one of the places in the world with the most churches. Portugal back in the day was one of the richest countries in the world, and they had colonies all over South America. They even founded the city of Nagasaki in Japan and had about 200,000 people living there. But they had a lot of gold coming from Brazil, which made them one of the richest countries in the world. And they were very Catholic. And so they used this gold to build a lot of churches in Lisbon. And then that attracted a lot of monks and a lot of this and that kind of people. And then, of course, when the earthquake hit, it was on November 1st, which is some sort of a holiday, very important day for Catholics. Not really sure why. Of course, everyone thought this was a sign from God. They were punishing the Portuguese for their slave trade, their stealing, and their everything. So it had huge ramifications for Portugal as a nation, and especially Lisbon, which was one of the powerhouses of Europe at the time. A fun fact, they, of course, after the earthquake, they had to rebuild the city because the whole city was leveled, and some of the buildings, they used old gravestones. So these are old gravestones, actually, from before the earthquake. I think one of these tombstones, I'm not sure if it's these, but in this place, in this cathedral or around this, I think Christopher Columbus's wife was buried, because of course he was first sent out by the Portuguese, but the Portuguese wanted to go south instead of west when Columbus went on his famous voyage. So he appealed to the Spanish king instead. And then up here we have another really famous monument, which is an elevator. This elevator was built late 1800s by one of the students of Gustav Eiffel. When Gustav Eiffel built the Eiffel Tower, he had a lot of students with him, of course. And one of them was born here in Portugal, but he was French. And they built this elevator as a celebration to like the modern world, kind of. So this connected the downtown to the neighborhood up here on the hill. This elevator, of course, is very touristic. You can see lining up to take you up. I don't know why we do that, but it has a very important role in Lisbon's history. Photo! And as you can see here, it looks pretty cool. And it looks very similar to the Eiffel Tower. You can see where the inspiration comes from. Now we're coming onto one of the main tourist streets, but it was sort of the main commercial streets back in the day. And of course, all the buildings down here in downtown were completely leveled by earthquake. And so when they rebuilt the city, there was the king went a bit crazy. He was like paranoid and lived in a tent for 10 years after the earthquake. And so one of his sort of handlers took over and basically made all the decisions. The king was unfit to rule. So he designed the new Portugal as like a modern city. So the old way the city looked was like based on the Renaissance style. Lots of churches, lots of statues, lots of sort of ornaments. Now it was a more practical and wider streets, and yeah. He actually invented a new technology. This was the first city and the first place in the world to build earthquake-proof buildings. That's pretty cool, I think. They found they invented a new technology back in the day. Of course, compared to modern technology, it's nothing. But it actually functions. So they built some sort of wooden structure within the frames of all the houses. And it was very important which particular type of wood it was and everything. And then this technology was exported, of course, to all of their colonies in Brazil, and it was exported to Venice. Of course, there's never been a major earthquake here since the one in the 1700s. But the technology was tested in Venice. It was a big earthquake in Italy, or like outside of Venice. It was a small town. And then they had, a few years before the earthquake, they had built a few buildings, like one of the major buildings in the town, with this technology. And when the earthquake hit, the whole town was in ruins, except this one building that had this technology. It was actually worked. And this is the Commerce Square in Lisbon, place of a lot of historical events. Most notably, probably the assassination of the king and the king's son in that corner, the last king of Portugal. So Portugal is apparently the country with the longest reigning fascist regime, longer than Spain even, from, was it 1932 to 1974, I think. So Portugal was on the brink of civil war, but a group of abolitionists, or whatever you call it, like the protesters, they gathered here and then they took over all these buildings, because these buildings belong to the Portuguese government. Like all the departments are housed here, agriculture department, this and that department. And so they occupied all of these buildings. And on the nights before, they had sent out, of course the radio was controlled by the government, by the fascist regime, but they had managed to get one radio channel on their side. So this channel sent out like a secret song or a banned song, which sort of signaled to everyone that something was going on. And so the next day they went to arrest the people at the radio station, of course, and they thought it was just 100 people or so who had occupied the square, but they came here to see thousands and thousands of people. And so the fascist soldiers saw their families, their moms and wives, protesting against them in the square. And of course, what are you going to do if you see your mom on the other side? You're going to lay down your arms. So yeah, so that's basically how Portugal was changed from a fascist regime to a democratic country. That's kind of fascinating, I think. And this market square was actually the first place in the world, or the only place in the world at that time, in the 1600s, to have commerce from Africa, Asia, Europe, the Americas, all of this in one place. Because like all other trade hubs had their trade routes where they shipped from Asia. So they had a lot of Asian goods, or from Africa, and they had a lot of African goods. But no place had one location where you could get goods from everywhere in one spot. So this was actually the only place, I think, or at least the first. Lisbon is a fascinating city, I think. Jonathan really didn't enjoy being here because of all the tourists. But if you just ignore all of them and actually listen to the history or learn about the history of the place, it's so fascinating. Well, I think now I will head back to the bike and head out of town. Look for some spot to camp tonight. Don't really know where I'm going, but towards Spain, and then we'll see. The bike is parked right up the street here, but this park that we're going through, Parco de Rossi or Plaza de Rossi or something like that, it's kind of it has a sinister history. Of course, you know about the Inquisition, where the church tried to make everyone Christian, and those who didn't want to become Christian, they burnt at the stake. And then they did that on this square. So this is where they burnt all the non-believers, because they believed that the fire cleanses the soul. So if you burn, then the soul gets to heaven. It's just your body. If you've sort of done the right things. If not, then you're gonna burn in hell anyway. So it doesn't matter. It's crazy back in the day. It's crazy how superstition can make you do such horrible things to other human beings. The bike is still here. Awesome. And the helmet is still here, and everything is still here. That's great. And then out of nowhere, this pig came running into the street right in front of me. And I hit the brakes,